The Pittsburgh Steelers enter the 2026 NFL season with a roster that, at least on paper, appears to be stronger than the one they carried into the previous year. General Manager Omar Khan spent another offseason aggressively addressing weaknesses, adding talent on both sides of the football while continuing to reshape the franchise under the leadership of new head coach Mike McCarthy. There is certainly more excitement surrounding the organization than there was just 1 year ago, but despite the upgrades, one major question continues to hover over the franchise. Can Aaron Rodgers still perform at a championship level at 42 years old? That single question may ultimately determine whether the Steelers become legitimate Super Bowl contenders or simply another playoff team destined for an early exit. Rodgers returned for what he has already confirmed will be the final season of his legendary NFL career. While many fans were thrilled to see the future Hall of Famer come back for one last run, others remained skeptical after watching his 2025 campaign. Statistically, Rodgers wasn't terrible. His touchdown-to-interception ratio remained respectable, he protected the football reasonably well, and he helped Pittsburgh reach the postseason. However, anyone who watched every game could clearly see that something had changed in his style of play. Rodgers rarely looked comfortable standing in the pocket waiting for deeper routes to develop. Instead, he consistently looked eager to get rid of the football almost immediately after receiving the snap. His average depth of target reached historically low levels, reflecting an offense built around quick throws, screens, and short timing routes rather than explosive vertical plays. That conservative approach frustrated plenty of Steelers fans throughout the season. There were numerous moments when wide receivers appeared to have opportunities developing downfield, yet Rodgers chose to dump the ball off underneath rather than risk taking a hit. While that strategy helped reduce sacks and protected the aging quarterback from unnecessary punishment, it also dramatically limited the ceiling of Pittsburgh's offense. Defenses quickly recognized what was happening. Opposing coordinators crowded the line of scrimmage, tightened coverage underneath, and dared Rodgers to throw over the top. Too often, he declined to do so. Much of Pittsburgh's offensive production instead came from checkdowns to running backs, especially Kenneth Gainwell, who frequently caught passes behind the line of scrimmage before attempting to create yardage after the catch. Gainwell deserves credit for making something out of very little on many occasions, but relying on those plays every week is hardly a sustainable formula for winning championships. Football analysts Kevin Clark and Mina Kimes recently discussed this exact issue while evaluating teams capable of competing for the Super Bowl. Neither analyst included Pittsburgh among the league's true contenders, and both quickly pointed toward Rodgers as the biggest reason why. Clark rejected the popular argument that former offensive coordinator Arthur Smith deserved most of the blame for Pittsburgh's lack of explosive passing plays during the 2025 season. Instead, he argued that the tape clearly showed Rodgers intentionally getting rid of the football at record speed. According to Clark, Rodgers posted the lowest average depth of target ever recorded, making it extremely difficult for Pittsburgh to consistently threaten opposing secondaries. Clark also pointed out that one of Pittsburgh's biggest offseason acquisitions, wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., naturally thrives in the short and intermediate passing game rather than as a consistent vertical threat. While Pittman is an outstanding possession receiver capable of moving the chains and making contested catches, his arrival may actually reinforce the offensive tendencies Rodgers already displayed throughout last season. Rather than opening up the field, Pittsburgh could find itself relying even more heavily on quick timing concepts unless McCarthy successfully changes the overall philosophy. Mina Kimes echoed Clark's concerns while questioning the logic behind blaming Arthur Smith for Rodgers' conservative approach. She humorously pointed out that Rodgers simply isn't the same athlete he was a decade ago. Age eventually catches every player, even one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Kimes joked that Rodgers was born while Mr. T was still dominating television screens, emphasizing just how remarkable it is that he remains a starting quarterback at this stage of his life. Behind the humor was a legitimate football point. Rodgers no longer possesses the mobility that once made him nearly impossible to sack. Earlier in his career, he could effortlessly escape pressure, extend plays, and launch deep passes while on the move. Those days appear to be over. Kevin Clark took the argument one step further by stating that Rodgers simply cannot afford to take hits anymore. According to Clark, that reality explains almost every decision Rodgers made last season. The veteran quarterback understands that every unnecessary collision increases the likelihood of injury, particularly given his age and previous Achilles injury. As a result, he instinctively prioritizes protecting himself over allowing routes additional time to develop. While understandable from a personal standpoint, that style inevitably limits the offense's explosiveness. Even with all of these concerns, there remains legitimate optimism surrounding Pittsburgh's offense entering the 2026 campaign. The biggest reason is Mike McCarthy. Unlike Arthur Smith, McCarthy has spent years building offensive systems specifically around Aaron Rodgers' strengths. The two worked together for well over a decade in Green Bay, winning a Super Bowl and producing some of the most efficient offenses in football. Their chemistry is already well established, eliminating much of the learning curve that typically accompanies a new coaching staff. McCarthy understands exactly what Rodgers likes to see before the snap, how he prefers route concepts to develop, and which protections allow him to feel most comfortable inside the pocket. That familiarity could prove invaluable. Instead of forcing Rodgers into an offensive structure that no longer fits his skill set, McCarthy appears committed to designing an offense tailored to what Rodgers still does well. That doesn't necessarily mean returning to the aggressive deep ball attack that defined Rodgers during his MVP seasons. Rather, it likely means blending quick passing concepts with improved protection, smarter route combinations, and a stronger commitment to the running game. Pittsburgh also believes its upgraded supporting cast can help maximize Rodgers' effectiveness. Michael Pittman Jr. provides a reliable possession receiver capable of winning contested catches. Rookie Jeremy Bernard brings speed and explosiveness that the receiving corps previously lacked. Rico Dowdle gives the Steelers another capable runner who can share the workload in the backfield. Improvements along the offensive line should also provide Rodgers with cleaner pockets, allowing him to remain patient instead of immediately searching for his check down. The offensive line may ultimately determine whether Pittsburgh's passing attack evolves or remains stagnant. If Rodgers consistently feels protected, perhaps he will regain enough confidence to allow deeper routes to develop. Even gaining an extra half-second inside the pocket could completely change how opposing defenses must approach the Steelers. Suddenly, safeties would be forced to respect the possibility of vertical throws, opening additional space underneath for Pittman, Bernard, and the running backs. Of course, optimism alone does not guarantee results. Rodgers must prove he still possesses both the arm strength and willingness to challenge defenses downfield. The physical talent certainly hasn't disappeared. Even critics acknowledge that Rodgers continues to throw one of the prettiest footballs in the league when given time. His accuracy remains exceptional, particularly on intermediate throws outside the numbers. The real question is whether he trusts both his body and his offensive line enough to hold onto the football a little longer. If he does, Pittsburgh's offense could become significantly more dangerous than it was a season ago. Defensively, the Steelers remain loaded with talent capable of carrying the team through difficult stretches if necessary. Players like T.J. Watt, Patrick Queen, Cam Hayward, Joey Porter Jr., and Jalen Ramsey provide experience and star power at every level of the defense. New defensive coordinator Patrick Graham has already emphasized communication, versatility, and adaptability throughout the offseason. If the defense performs up to expectations while McCarthy successfully revitalizes the offense, Pittsburgh could quickly emerge as one of the AFC's most balanced teams. Still, everything ultimately circles back to the quarterback. Rodgers is the centerpiece of this entire experiment. His reunion with McCarthy represents one final opportunity to silence critics and finish one of the greatest careers in NFL history on a high note. Steelers fans understand that this may be their best chance to compete for a championship before transitioning toward a younger quarterback in the future. There will undoubtedly be pressure from the very beginning of training camp all the way through the postseason. Every throw, every decision, and every performance will be analyzed under a microscope. Rodgers has spent nearly 2 decades thriving under that kind of scrutiny, but this challenge feels different. This isn't about proving he was once great. Everyone already knows that. This is about proving he can still lead a championship-caliber team despite Father Time slowly catching up. If Rodgers can rediscover even a portion of the aggressive mentality that made him one of the NFL's most feared quarterbacks, the Steelers could surprise many of the analysts who currently dismiss them as pretenders. If he continues playing cautiously and relying almost exclusively on quick passes, however, Pittsburgh may once again find itself falling short when the competition becomes strongest in January. The talent is there. The coaching staff has changed. The supporting cast has improved. Now the spotlight shifts squarely onto Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers have built what they believe is a roster capable of making a legitimate playoff run, but whether that dream becomes reality will depend largely on whether their veteran quarterback can prove that one final magical season still remains in his remarkable career. What are your expectations for Aaron Rodgers in the upcoming season with the Steelers? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.